Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to another session on economy this week, wherein we'll be taking all the important economic related events or articles that have appeared in different newspapers and analyzing these particular articles. For today's video, the time period that we'll be covering will be 6th to 12th of August 2022. Let's begin the discussion. The first very important article is regarding RBI announcing new norms or new guidelines regarding digital lending. First and foremost, what is this concept of a digital lending? Digital lending simply means technology will be used to identify the borrowers or the customers and provide loans or let's say the credit facilities to these particular borrowers. In recent times, a lot of digital lending apps have originated in India. I'll start using the short form here, DLA. DLA simply stands for Digital Lending Apps. As per one of the reports that was set up, or one of the committees that was set up by RBI, which has given the report, the Dash committee, that committee has identified that there are more than 1,000 or 1,100 digital lending apps in India which are available to Android users, and most of them, or majority of them, are illegal in nature. That is one concern. Second very important concern is there are certain regulatory issues related to these particular digital lending apps. That is, whenever you talk about these lenders, these has to be regulated by somebody. But it has been found that there are many of these particular lenders who do not come under any of the regulatory bodies. Either it has to be any other regulatory body if it is not RBI, but some of these particular apps are not being regulated by any of the regulators in the Indian economy. Third very important issue has been that there are a lot of issues in terms of rate of interest charged on the loans, hidden charges, data privacy issues, mismanagement of the data of the customer, leakage of this, etc. In order to address all of these, RBI, taking the recommendations of the Dash committee, has made certain changes or has announced certain guidelines in order to regulate digital lending apps. Now, what are the important regulations? First thing, remember these particular regulations? First thing, RBI has divided these digital lending apps under three heads. One will be those will come under the regulation of RBI, have been authorized by RBI to conduct these particular digital lending activity. Second will be those which are not coming under the regulation of RBI, but they will be regulated by some other agencies or institutions, but have been authorized to give out digital loans. And the third one is that particular area which are giving digital loans but not coming under regulations of any of the authorities. These are not set up under any of the statutory laws also. This is where RBI says, first category anyways I will regulate. Second category, individual regulators are there in the market. Based on the recommendations of the committee, they can frame their own guidelines. Third group, which are not set up or which are not coming under any of the statutory laws like this, RBI says, or the committee which has given the recommendation says that the government has to bring in certain law so that these particular authorities or let's say these particular digital lending apps will be covered under that and regulated. That's the first very important regulatory change that has been announced by RBI. Second very important regulatory change. Imagine you are taking a loan from a digital lending app from let's say either a bank or an NBFC. Generally what happens is the bank or NBFC directly doesn't give a loan to you. There is a third party, there is an intermediary, that is a loan service provider, LSP. Generally what happens is the LSP will take the money from the bank or NBFC, then transfers it to a customer and charges certain amount for providing these particular services, collects it from the customer. What RBI now says is, whenever through a digital lending app, loan is given to a customer or a borrower, the amount has to be transferred directly from the bank account of either a bank or an NBFC into the bank account of the borrower. So the third party account, or let's say the loan service provider's account, which was earlier used to transfer the funds, will not be utilized. This will promote transparency in the system. And the third very important point here is, whenever an LSP provides this kind of a service, earlier it used to charge certain amount to the customer. Now RBI says, no, that will not be allowed. These charges have to be paid by the bank or NBFC which are giving loans through the digital lending apps to the customers. Customer doesn't have to pay these particular charges. Fourth very important regulatory change. Whenever a customer or a borrower takes a loan from a DLA, the DLA has to issue a key fact statement, KFS, key fact statement. This particular key fact statement must consist of all the information regarding the loan. What is the amount of the loan? How much is the rate of interest? How much will the penalty? What is the due date on which the loan has to be paid? All the details have to be provided in the key fact statement even before the loan is issued to the customer. The KFS has to be given to the customer. Fifth very important change. Whenever the DLA will provide the loans or will basically ensure that the customer or the beneficiaries, or let's say the borrowers, get the loans here, they collect the data. This data has to be collected with the consent of the customer. First point. Now, if the DLA wants to share it with anybody else, they will have to take the consent of the customer. The customer has the right to deny the consent, withdraw the consent, and in extreme cases, the customer can simply ask the DLA to delete all the data that they have collected from the customer. That is very, very important. The right has been given to the customer now in order to request for the deletion or withdrawal of the consent that they have provided regarding the data or the personal data which is there with the DLS. Because earlier, if you remember, I told you there is a concern regarding the data privacy of the customers here. So these are some of the very, very important points regarding the digital lending apps, which are the very important reforms, or let's say the measures which have been announced by RBI in order to regulate these digital lending apps. Now, based on this, I've given an MCQ here. Consider the following statements regarding RBI guidelines on digital lending. The DLA's digital lending apps need explicit consent from the customers in case of data collection. Yes, the statement 1 is correct. Second, the customers can revoke the consent but cannot ask for the data collected to be deleted. This statement is wrong because customers can not only revoke the consent that they have provided, they can also ask for the data collected to be deleted. That right is there with the customer. So second statement is wrong. Right option for this particular question will be option A, only one is correct. Before going forward, I just want to add one more very important point here. That is regarding the norms itself which have been announced by RBI. Although this was not discussed in the Hindu, the articles related to this, other newspapers actually covered it. That is regarding the grievance redressal mechanism. Whenever you have any complaint regarding, let's say, the process or the products that have been sold to you under the digital lending apps, you want to file a complaint. Now RBI simply says that every DLA has to appoint a grievance redressal officer. And whenever a customer files a complaint regarding this, within next 30 days from the date of receiving of the complaint, the grievance has to be addressed. If not, now the customer can simply go to RBI under the RBI's ombudsman scheme, integrated ombudsman scheme. The customer can file a complaint regarding this. So this is one more very important reform, or let's say the measure that has been announced by RBI. Next article regarding the sale of smartphones by Chinese companies. First and foremost, what are the important facts here? India is one of the largest market for smartphones. How large? Second largest in the global market. And when you compare out of all the smartphones sold, if you find out the data and compare how much have been manufactured and sold by domestic companies, how much have been sold by the foreign companies. The foreign companies have manufactured and sold lot of these particular smartphones in the Indian market, especially the Chinese companies. For example, there are many Chinese companies such as Vivo who have been able to manufacture and sell these particular smartphones in the domestic market. And these particular companies account for a large number of market share within the smartphone industry or smartphone market in India. For example, many experts have quoted this data. If you find how much has been manufactured and sold by the Chinese manufacturers in the Indian market, that is the smartphones by the way, more than 50 to 60% of the phones are actually sold by them. And if you account for how much of these particular products, or let's say the mobile phones, are manufactured and sold by the domestic manufacturers, that is domestic original equipment manufacturers. They will simply use the short form OEM, original equipment manufacturers, don't get confused. It generally accounts for around 1 or 2%. And whenever you go down in the sense the price of the mobile phones, and if you calculate it for let's say the mobile phones or smartphones which are priced at $150, that is up to $150 or below 12,000 rupees, majority of the phones which are manufactured and sold are by Chinese companies itself. Government of India, looking at all of this, has thought of, again I'm repeating is, has thought of, and it is an allegation, or it is basically an estimation that government will do that. In fact, after this particular article appeared in various newspapers, the government has clarified that government is not thinking of banning these particular phones. There is absolutely no, let's say, the proposal right now regarding banning of the Chinese manufacturers, or let's say Chinese mobile phones below the 12,000 rupees. But before that clarification was given, what was being alleged or what was being envisaged? It was being said that Government of India is thinking of bringing a proposal wherein the mobile phone manufacturers, right, who are manufacturing up to 12,000 rupees of a mobile phone, the sale of these particular smartphones will be banned by the Government of India. And this would be done in order to promote domestic manufacturing. Very simple. The government said that we will, or government is thought to have said that we will simply ban the Chinese mobile phones. They will not be allowed to be sold if the price is below 12,000 rupees. Instead of that, we will promote domestic companies such as Lava company, Micromax company to manufacture these particular smartphones and sell it in the domestic market. Why? Despite taking so many measures, for example, PLI has been implemented. Many other schemes have been implemented by the government. The mobile manufacturers, especially the domestic mobile manufacturers, are struggling in India. And in order to promote these particular domestic companies, specifically the domestic companies, that is Indian companies, the government is said to have thought of banning these particular smartphones by Chinese companies of price below 12,000 rupees. But again, please remember this. Couple of days after this came out in the newspaper, government has clarified that there is no proposal as of now regarding this. And even the Chinese counterpart stated that we would expect the Government of India to honor the transparency and the cooperation between both of the countries in terms of trading purposes. And the Chinese government clearly stated they would stand behind the Chinese companies in order to manufacture and sell the mobile phones not only in India, across the global market. Now, what is the concern? Even if the Government of India brings in such a policy, what is the concern here? The concern is very simple. If you see, out of all the smartphones below 12,000 rupees or up to 12,000 rupees which are manufactured and sold in the domestic market, majority of them, around 80% of them, are basically sold by the Chinese companies itself. And only around 1 or 2% of these particular smartphones are manufactured and sold by the domestic companies. Even if Government of India goes ahead and bans the sale of these particular smartphones by Chinese companies, various experts have warned that the domestic companies will not be able to match the scale of operations of the Chinese companies. That is, if you ban, then there is a lacuna. The domestic companies will not be able to match the pricing as well as the sale or the quantity of the mobile phones which are manufactured by Chinese companies. That is one concern here. Second concern is, already many of these particular foreign companies have established their manufacturing bases in India or assembly bases in India. They'll import the components, assemble and sell them in the domestic market. Now the question is, if the Government of India says, I will ban these particular smartphones, Chinese companies will simply assemble in India and sell them in the domestic market. So they are not importing the smartphones, they are essentially importing the components of the smartphones. Now the impact of the policy, if at all it is implemented, will be blunted because of this. So these are certain very important points regarding the article, right, provided here in the Live Mint. Let me go to the next article regarding Atal Pension Yojana, APY, Atal Pension Yojana. First and foremost, Atal Pension Yojana was introduced by Government of India, or this particular scheme was introduced by Government of India back in 2015. And the objective of the scheme was very simple. Government of India wanted to ensure that the people who are working in the unorganized sector will be provided with certain protection, that is in the form of pension benefit after the retirement age. That is, once they attain the age of 60 years, they should be able to get certain amount of returns by investing in a product like this. But just to be very clear here, even before the Atal Pension Yojana, there was one scheme, Swavalamban. This also targeted the same type of beneficiaries and provided pension benefit itself. Now this is my question to you people. If Government of India back in 2010-11 had already launched Swavalamban scheme, what was the need for the government to again launch one more scheme by the name of Atal Pension Yojana? You need to give an answer regarding this. Try to find out, leave the answer in the comment section below. So let me go ahead. So in 2015, Government of India launched this particular scheme, Atal Pension Yojana. Objective was very simple, target unorganized sector beneficiaries or workers in the unorganized sector, ask them to contribute certain amount. Central government will also co-contribute a certain amount, and once they attain the age of 60 years, the pension would be provided to them. And the pension was in the range of 1,000 to 5,000 rupees. That is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 and 5,000. Based on the contribution that you do and the duration for which you make the contribution, the amount would be guaranteed. I repeat, the amount would be guaranteed between 1,000 to 5,000. This is the next very important point. Now, apart from this, please remember, already I have mentioned this to you. The beneficiaries used to contribute the amount. In addition to the beneficiaries, even the government, that is the central government, used to co-contribute. In simple terms, apart from the beneficiaries providing the contribution, central government is also contributing the money and ensuring that the beneficiaries will get the pension amount in the range of 1,000 rupees to 5,000, right, after they attain the age of 60 years. Now, the minimum age for getting enrolled under the Atal Pension Yojana was 18 years and the maximum age is 40 years. In simple terms, remember, this could be the question asked in UPSC prelims. If you even enroll for, let's say, at the age of 40 years, you will have to contribute for 20 years under this particular scheme. That is, in simple terms, the minimum number of years that you need to contribute under the Atal Pension Yojana will be at least 20 years. It will have to be 20 or more than 20 years. Provided, remember this, provided these beneficiaries will have a savings bank account in either a bank or in a post office. These are certain very important points regarding Atal Pension Yojana. Now, why it is there in the newspaper? Central government very recently has announced that if you are an income taxpayer and you are a subscriber under the Atal Pension Yojana, after the 1st October, remember this, the income taxpayers who are availing Atal Pension Yojana and are also, right, subscribers of Atal Pension Yojana and are also paying the income taxes, the government will not be providing this particular pension yojana to you people. The argument of the Government of India is very simple here. If you are an income taxpayer, you are not expected to avail the benefit of this particular scheme. Why? Under this particular scheme, Government of India is co-contributing, is providing certain amount on your behalf in the form of investment in the yojana, so that you will get the pension, right, in the range of 1,000 to 5,000 rupees. In simple terms, government is incurring subsidies. Done? Very simply put, government is incurring subsidies. And government says, if you are an income taxpayer, you don't need this particular subsidy. This is a point you need to remember. There is a concept called as rationalization of subsidies. Very often whenever there is a question on fiscal policy of the government or the subsidy regime of the government, in the way forward you are expected to write about rationalization of subsidies. One reform that has been implemented, very famous by the way, which has been implemented by the government of India in order to rationalize subsidies, is the example of LPG subsidy itself, direct benefit transfer in LPG. Right, under that basically government of India rationalized subsidies, rationalized revenue expenditure. Another very important point you need to make a note of now, to mention it in the UPSC mains, is regarding this. Government of India now says, if you are basically joining Atal Pension Yojana from 1st October, that is upcoming 1st October, then government says, I will not allow you to join under this particular scheme if you are an income tax payer. What if you join? Right? What if you join? Then the government simply says, I will close the account and whatever amount has been collected, I will hand it over back to you. I'll simply give it back to you. I will not allow you to continue under the Atal Pension Yojana. So these are certain very important points regarding the APY article provided here. Now based on this, I've given a question. Consider the following statements regarding Atal Pension Yojana. The minimum period of contribution of the subscriber under the scheme will be 20 years. Statement 1 is correct. A person must be of minimum age of 18 years to contribute under this. Statement 2 is correct. Right option for this particular question will be option C, both 1 and 2. Next article regarding capital spending. Now, two very important points here. First and foremost, the GST compensation period is over. I hope you have been reading the newspapers. If you have been reading, you will know this. The GST compensation period is over. And because the GST compensation period is over, the states have been demanding that the compensation must be continued because they have to spend a lot of money and they don't have sufficient amount of money. That's the first point. Second very important point is the government, because of the recommendations given by the Finance Commission, has to devolve, that is in simple terms, has to give part of the tax receipts to the state governments, has to distribute the tax proceeds between the center as well as the states. That is as per the 15th Finance Commission, or if you take for that matter any Finance Commission. The most important function of a Finance Commission is to provide the formula for distribution of tax proceeds between center and the states. That is tax devolution formula. And once this particular tax devolution formula is given, the next point will be, now the formula will be given how the tax proceeds have to be distributed amongst the states. In simple terms, these are called as vertical devolution formula and horizontal devolution formula respectively. Now, generally based on the 15th Finance Commission recommendation, the central government provides the monthly devolution of around 50,000 crore rupees. It's obviously more than 58,000 crores. You don't have to mug up the data here. So monthly the central government provides around 58,000 odd crore rupees to all the states put together. Now because the GST compensation period is over and there's a concern that the states will not have sufficient amount of money to plan and spend on capital expenditure, center has released 1.16 lakh crore rupees to states under the concept of tax devolution itself. I'll repeat the statement here. Central government under the concept of tax devolution, rather than releasing 58,000 odd crore rupees, has released 1.16 lakh crore rupees to the states. And this was there in the newspaper for a very simple reason. Under Niti Aayog, I hope you have read regarding Niti Aayog. Under Niti Aayog, that is specifically under the structure or the organization of Niti Aayog, there is a governing council. And in the governing council, the representation of the states is present. Recently, there was a meeting of governing council under the Niti Aayog. Many of the chief ministers boycotted this. Please be very careful. And those participated, one of the points of discussion was they should have sufficient amount of money or the assistance from the center so that they can increase the capital expenditure. Following this, the government of India has announced that they would be issuing not just 58,000 plus crore rupees to the states under devolution, they would rather be issuing or releasing double amount of that, that is 1.16 lakh crores, so that the states can properly plan as well as spend money in order to revive the economy or in order to promote capital expenditure, which will have an impact or a positive impact in terms of revival in the economy. So this is the article regarding capital expenditure. Next, registration portal for rations. Now what is this? Already I'm pretty sure you must have read regarding One Nation, One Ration Card, ONORC, which will provide portability of ration cards for the beneficiaries under NFSA. But this will only help when you have a ration card. I hope you understand this. You have a ration card. Using that particular ration card, irrespective of whether you are a beneficiary of state 1, state 2, state 3, doesn't matter. You can avail the subsidized food grains in any of the states, any of the districts throughout India. That is the benefit of One Nation, One Ration Card. But the point that you must make a note of here is, ONORC will be helpful when you have a ration card. What if, imagine this is state 1, I am one of the migrant worker who resides in state 1. I am moving from state 1 to state 2. I have moved. I don't have any residence. I don't have any proof of residence. My PAN card says or my Aadhaar card says I am a resident of state 1. But I want to enroll and start getting rations, right, in the state 2. I want to first and foremost get the ration card. For that, I should have a residential proof. The Aadhaar card says that I am a resident of state 1. I don't have any address proof of living in state 2. What will happen in such cases? Don't you think the migrant workers will find it very, very difficult to get access to rations here? First and foremost, they need to get access to ration card. Because they don't have residential proof, it will be very difficult to get even the access, get the ration card and then get the access to subsidized food grains. To address this, generally what used to happen earlier is every state government had its own portal, and the residents of the respective states had to log on to that particular portal or go physically and apply for a ration card. Now what the central government says is this is cumbersome process. Right? Remember, this is a cumbersome process. Rather than that, what I will do is I will set up a new portal, that is a Ration Mitra. Remember this. The name of the portal is Ration Mitra. This particular Ration Mitra portal has been developed by NIC, National Informatics Center, and this single portal can be utilized by all the states to enroll the beneficiaries under NFSA in a single portal now. Rather than the earlier system of individual portals, now only one portal will help the states to enroll the beneficiaries under the NFSA. Because please understand this, under NFSA, as per the census data or let's say the population of 2011, around 81 plus crore people are supposed to be provided with subsidized food grains. Right now, the number of beneficiaries under the NFSA is around 79.7 crore people. So the government says there is scope of enrollment of more people, especially those particular migrant people who have moved from the one city to another city or one state to another state who do not have a residential proof. Now the portal can be utilized by the state governments to enroll, right, these particular beneficiaries. That is the first very, very important point I want to discuss regarding NFSA. Second very important point, though it has not been mentioned here, please be very, very careful. Annually what the government says is, we will conduct certain exercises where we will find out if there is any duplication of the beneficiary under NFSA, or somebody has moved into a particular criteria, or let's say he is earning very high amount of income. He has moved from one country to or from India to some other country, or the beneficiary has died. In such cases, we need to keep on checking the list of the beneficiaries and we need to weed out these kind of beneficiaries. And following this, remember this, in the last couple of years, more than 4 crore ration cards have been deleted and more than 19 crore beneficiaries have been moved out of or have been removed out of the list of the beneficiaries under NFSA. And very recently, the central government says that they expect lakhs of people who are not supposed to be the beneficiaries under NFSA are still continuing to get the benefits of subsidized food grains. List has been prepared. This has been given to the states. Now the states will have to go for on ground verification. That is, at the ground level, the states have to verify whether these are the right beneficiaries or not. If these are not the right beneficiaries, then they have to be removed out of the list of beneficiaries under NFSA. This is also one more exercise which will control, one, the expenditure in the form of a food subsidy for the government. Second, when new people, or let's say new beneficiaries who actually require the benefits, have to be onboarded, have to be brought onto NFSA. One concern is the maximum amount of coverage is around 81 crore people. We cannot cross it. Then remove the duplicate beneficiaries, or the, let's say, the beneficiaries who have continued to remain on the list despite not being eligible, remove them and enroll new beneficiaries. So these are the two very important points regarding the National Food Security Act in the recent times. Now, based on this, I have given a question. Consider the following statements regarding Ration Mitra portal. Has been developed by IIT Kanpur? No, it is not correct. Already we have discussed this. National Informatics Center. Can be used to enroll people from any state? Yes, statement is correct. So right option for this particular question is option B, only 2 is correct. Next article is regarding monetary policy. Now, in case of monetary policy, 2 points were very important for UPSC exams. Rest of the things, RBI has increased the repo rate from 5%, it has been from 4.9%, it has been increased to 5.4%. It's not new, it's been the policy of RBI for the last couple of months, where in order to control inflation, it has been increasing the policy rate or repo rate. Right? You don't have to mug up all of this, because please understand this. After a couple of months, again the rate will change. You don't need to mug up. What are the 2 important points that I am referring to? One, RBI referred to something by the name of a black swan event. It was referred to by RBI. In fact, it was reported in Hindu newspaper itself. RBI referred to something called as a black swan event. For example, RBI said, despite pandemic, that is COVID pandemic, as well as the war between Russia and Ukraine, which are black swan events, the growth has been resilient. Now UPSC will target this particular term, that is, what is black swan event. I'll come to that. Second one is, RBI has opened up Bharat Bill Payment System, BBPS, even to the non-resident Indians now. These were the 2 very important points in the recently concluded monetary policy or review of monetary policy. Now, what are these particular 2 points? First thing, black swan event. What is this black swan event? Generally, when you read economics, in the books, they don't discuss black swan event because it is not a part of traditional economics. The term was made very famous by one of the authors, Mr. Taleb, in one of the books which he wrote many years ago, Fooled by Randomness. The title of the book is Fooled by Randomness. And in that particular book, he says that there are certain events which cannot be expected to happen. You cannot estimate, you cannot prepare models. These events will take place. And as a result of these particular events, the impact of this will be very huge. I repeat, these events cannot be predicted. These are unpredictable events. But when these events will take place, the impact of these particular events will be very huge. For example, the Brexit, that is one of the black swan events. The COVID pandemic is a black swan event. The 2008 global financial crisis is a black swan event. Russia-Ukraine crisis is a black swan event. So RBI says, despite having 2 black swan events very recently, that is one COVID pandemic as well as the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the growth in India has remained resilient. That's the first point. Second point, BBPS, Bharat Bill Payment System. It's a system which is being maintained by National Payment Corporation of India, NPCI. It was originally envisaged by RBI, but has been maintained by NPCI now. And under this particular BBPS, these various types of bill payments can be conducted. Repetitive, or let's say the periodical bill payments that you do, for example, electricity bill payments or school fees, insurance payments, etc. More than 20,000 types of bill payments can be conducted using the BBPS. So far, BBPS system was available only for residents in India. Hope you understand this? This particular system was available only for the residents in India. Now it has been made available even to the non-residents in India. The objective or the logical explanation that has been provided by RBI is, lot of these particular Indians who are NRIs want to pay for, let's say, a school fees, that is educational payment, healthcare payments, or bill payments of the, let's say, the elderly parents or their children, or they want to provide it as a gift to someone, etc. But they are unable to do that because BBPS is not open to the NRIs. Now RBI says this will be made available, open to even the NRIs. And for this particular purpose, remember just a factual information here. The NRIs need not have an NRE account. I'll repeat. To enroll and start paying under the BBPS, NRIs, there is no requirement of having an NRE account. NRE account. Done? Right. So these are certain important points regarding monetary policy. Now based on this, I have given an MCQ. Which of the following are examples of black swan events? COVID pandemic? Yes. Russia-Ukraine war? Yes. 2008 global financial crisis? Of course. 97 Asian market crash? Yes. And the fifth one is a Brexit? Yes. All the five are black swan events. Right option for this question will be option D, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Next article is regarding blue bonds. Right, two types of bonds are being discussed here. Right, that is by regulator, SEBI, market regulator. One is a blue bond, second one is a green bond. And you don't have to scratch your head regarding these particular concepts of blue bond and green bond. Logic, right, apply the logic, it will be very, very simple. Green bonds are those types of bonds which are nothing but the debt instruments, wherein the issuer will issue this, collect the money and earmark. Earmark simply means reserve this particular money to be used for specific type of projects. What type of project? SEBI has given a huge list of the project, and the proceeds from the green bonds can be utilized only for these particular projects. Right? That is a concept of green bonds. In simple terms, green projects or environment friendly projects. But very recently, understand this, what SEBI has done is it has published a paper wherein it says now there is a need to review the concept of a green bond. That is, they want to review the definition of green debt securities, GDS. Green debt securities, green bond is a type of that. The argument that has been given by SEBI is the concept of definition of GDS was given by SEBI back in the year 2017. But after that, many changes have been introduced across the global market. Now we want to imbibe or inculcate these particular changes. For example, one point that has been mentioned, just make a note of this, is that green bond principles have been published by International Capital Market Association, ICMA. And as per ICMA, the GBP principles cover a lot of other types of securities apart from, over and above, those have been mentioned by SEBI. That's a precise reason why SEBI now says we want to review the definition of green bonds. That's the first point. Second point, blue bonds. Again, not a very novel concept, but novel concept in India. Blue bonds, as the name goes or as the color goes, is associated with seas or water. What SEBI says is, in order to promote sustainable financing in terms of, let's say, the sustainable fishing activity or oceanic resource mining activities, or right, let's say national offshore wind energy policy, or even in terms of promoting blue flag beach ecotourism model, what we can do is we can start promoting concept of blue bonds. In simple terms, these bonds are issued, these are debt instruments, money will be collected and will be used for these kind of projects only. That is a concept of a blue bonds. And SEBI says it is time for us to promote the concept of blue bonds in India. Why? India has a huge coastline of more than 7,500 kilometers, and the inland water which is navigable in India is around 14,500 kilometers. And the blue GDP or blue economy accounts for around 4% of GDP. So we can use this particular financing model to promote blue economy in India. So these are the two very important points regarding SEBI proposal. The last article for the day regarding ILO report. Right? What is this? ILO, International Labour Organization. Now what this particular report by the name, or let's say the title, right, is the global employment trends for youth 2022. Please make a note of this. Why? First point is, UPSC can ask you a straightforward question regarding the report itself. For example, sir, what kind of question can be asked? Two ways. What if UPSC will ask you which of the following report is published by ILO? And this is one of them. Second way question can be asked is, they will give the title of the report and ask you which of the following authorities is actually publishing this report. Two ways the question can be asked. Anyways, the first very important point is, ILO has published a report, the Global Employment Trends for Youth 2022. What are the observations? Important points are observations in this particular report. First and foremost, the report says that in the context of India, there was unemployment back in 2020 as well as 2021. The jobs have been lost. Youth, right? Jobs have been lost both in year 2021 as well as 2020 as well. But the rise in unemployment amongst the youth in 2021 was much more than compared to previous year. I'll repeat. The rise in unemployment or the loss of jobs in 2021 was higher compared to the loss of jobs in 2020. Again, you don't have to search, let's say, Google or Wikipedia to get the answer why it has happened. Simple reason is the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, there was an impact on the overall economy. Jobs were lost, and the ILO says youth have lost the jobs. What about others? What about others? Have others also lost the jobs? Of course, yes. Others also have lost the job. But this report says that especially the youth between the age group of 15 to 24 years are the most affected ones. The majority impact of the loss of jobs was felt by the youth in the age group of 15 to 24 years. That's the first very, very important point quoted in the report. Second very important point, whenever the pandemic, right, affected India, the schools were shut down. And as a result of this, many of these particular schools were shut for more than 1 year. And as per this particular report, the shutdown of the schools or the closure of the schools ended or extended up to 18 months. It was for a period of 18 months. And what is the impact of this? Whenever the schools are shut, the children will not be able to learn new skills or they will not be able to get access to education. But at that point of time, some of you will say, sir, there was online schooling. And that's what the next point is in this particular report. The report says that the 24 crore school children, in case of India, 24 crore school going children were affected by the pandemic because the schools were shut down. But not all of these particular school children were able to get access to online education. Because in case of India, it's a fact. There is a huge discrepancy or imbalance in terms of getting access to internet in urban India as well as rural India. And as a result of this, many of these particular school children, because the schools were shut down, they were not able to get access to internet. They were not able to learn anything during this particular period. In fact, the report goes one step ahead, uses one peculiar term. Remember this, learning regression. Remember the term here, learning regression. What is this learning regression? You are not only learning anything new, but you are also forgetting what you had learned in the past. I hope you understand this. Many of you will say, sir, yes, sir. Exactly, that's what is happening in terms of UPSC preparation now. Understand the logic here. You are not learning anything new. Forget about it because the schools are shut down. The internet is not available to you. But in addition to that, you are also forgetting the skills that you have learned or the knowledge that you have obtained in the earlier education levels also. That is the term learning regression that has been mentioned in this particular ILO report. Done. So these are certain very important points published in the ILO report titled Global Employment Trends for the Youth 2022. So these are the various questions or various articles as well as the questions related to these articles for the duration 6th August to 12th August 2022. If you like the initiative, please hit the like button, provide your valuable comments in the section below, and if you have not yet subscribed to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, kindly do now. Thank you. Have a great day.